You're now listening to the show about the shit in life that's just a bit too much from the perspective of stand-up comics. With our hosts, Carmelo Bongiovi and Ken Krantz. This week's topic, Overthinking Part 1. With our guest, Eric De Alessandro. This is A Bit Too Much.
So my dad is, we've talked about it on the show, probably exhaustively, but is a Sicilian immigrant. My parents are Sicilian immigrants. And so there's definitely obviously there's that, there's not just the generational, it's not just boomer parent. For me, it's also like they are so stuck in this is how everyone who came from this place to this place did it. Mm. It's a specific, I talked to Kunal Arora about this early in the show, was it's there's the culture in another country, there's the culture here, but then there's a third culture of immigrants during that period of time, people who migrated over in the 70s and 80s. Mm-hmm. It's a whole separate culture. It's not quite Italian and it's not quite American. There is an immigrant culture of that time and place, though. I'm New York 70s and 80s, whether you were Italian, Hispanic, Black, if you were migrating here, mm-hmm. you parented your kids in a certain way, and it always involved punching them. It wasn't ever not punching them.
Was it weird having parents not from America?
Well, none of my friends, or one other friend had immigrant parents. Everyone else, I had a lot of Italian friends. I grew up in the neighborhood in Queens, but they were Italian American through generations. Mm-hmm. So I was wondering, it was weird in the ways I'd get embarrassed about my school lunches.
Okay,
it was weird in that, not in anything that brutal.
A tray of lasagna,
dude. When I tell you, fucking tray of literally a Tupperware of chicken cacciatore, things that I would get so excited for if my wife were to, she would never do that. But if my wife were to be who am I kidding? She's not making me chicken cacciatore, even at home. She's certainly not packing it in a little thing for me. But so I'm fucking discarding chicken bones at my school lunch. That's not what you want to do. You get made fun of. Everyone has a fucking bologna sandwich. Yeah. Right? So those are the ways I was embarrassed of them. But the weird thing is what I wasn't embarrassed about were the things that I should have been embarrassed about. How rough they were. Mm. You know what I mean? Those things didn't. I was they could see that. They just can't see the things that now I would celebrate. Oh yeah, the food was amazing. That was the best part of my childhood. Was the fucking food was great.
Yeah. I don't know. Sebastian has a great bit about that. How he had silverware. Yeah. His parents would give him.
Dude, yeah, I had silverware in my lunch. They would give you. They would put it in a brown paper bag, but then they'd put a metal fork in it that would be ripping through the brown paper bag, and then I had to roll it up and
you
take it back.
Probably threw a couple of those out.
Oh,
too,
I certainly did, because I didn't want to. I would throw them out before I even sat down sometimes, or sometimes I wouldn't open my lunch because I was embarrassed. Mm. It would be this massive lunch, and it'd be I would just walking past it would just dump the whole fucking thing in the garbage because I was so embarrassed. I'm does my dad think that I'm gonna sit here and fucking cut potatoes? Do you know what I mean?
I was more of the. My parents. I mean, I don't even tell. Yes, I'm Italian, but my grandparents were born in Brooklyn, so I'm so American.
What? So Staten, your family's from Staten Island,
Brooklyn.
From Brooklyn.
Yeah.
You were born and raised in Staten Island. Though, right?
I was the only sibling, though. They were all from Bensonhurst, Bay Ridge. I think Bensonhurst they lived.
Gotcha.
But so when I would my whole embarrassment was I think being poor. I wasn't poor, so my mom would always get mad at me because that is an insult to people who actually are poor. When you're a little kid,
you feel poor compared to your friends?
100%. They all have Yoo-hoo.
Yeah.
And I got fucking sips.
Yeah.
Because it was $1 for 20 of them.
Just you saying sips takes me back. So
I don't even know what that is.
It's very.
I guess I wasn't poor.
You
weren't poor. You had Capri Sun or something.
Yeah, weren't you in a cul-de-sac? We don't know what a cul-de-sac was.
Yeah.
No.
Well, also you grew up in Jersey, and it's a little bit more neighborhoody, I think, than the boroughs of New York.
Where in Jersey?
East Brunswick.
So
okay. Right by Rutgers University.
Yeah.
Not that nice. I mean,
Yeah. Okay. I was like, you were like, I grew up super rich. I just compared to no. It's like, but like borough, like when you grow up in the boroughs.
Oh yeah.
It's like just you just everyone feels a little bit. But then you've like I feel like in Staten Island, I don't know. I guess when you were growing up, you're in your mid-30s, right?
Yeah.
When you were growing up, if it was like this, the way it is now, where like Staten Island's a very showy place. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Staten Island's like keeping up with the Joneses or what what Italian name instead of Jones. Like what's the like? Everyone compares their it starts with like their sweet 16s to their weddings. Everyone's comparing what they accomplished.
They
what
started
their
doing.
are.
They started doing say yes to the dress for communions. I swear to God, not a joke. I swear to God, it's a little girl sitting there with like a sign from Kleinfeld.
Which is hilarious because little kids will say no to fucking anything to piss you off.
I mean-
like they don't have to like the dress. Like
Now, you know what's very interesting, and I'm sure people will give me shit for this, which I don't know why. I've always been a believer of like, not even a believer, just my dad was a cop. My mom worked in like law offices.
Right.
So like we were a middle class American family, lower middle class. So were all my friends.
Right.
Their dads worked for the city. Their moms were nurses, teachers, worked for like the city as well.
Yeah.
So we all know we're all basically the same. So this presentation of rich is a lie. We know it's a lie.
Right.
So who is the? It's weird.
Who's
so, like,
it for? Everyone knows that you're.
we
not,
all
like,
know that
yeah.
this is you're
Like,
not.
both of our dads are cops. Neither of us are rich. How are we? How are we both acting like we're
So
rich?
that's what's interesting about Staten
Yeah.
Island is
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
it's like, do you know who I am? Yeah, I do know who you are. I saw you at the lunch line. And also like,
Right.
having a Range Rover when we have the same salary is just interesting to me. It's more of like an American, or not even American, a world view of like how social class, how money, how all of this stuff is. It's very fascinating to me.
Yeah.
I was very interested in that because I'd go to like my friends' parties and it would be like this show of wealth, and then I'd see them at Costco.
Yeah.
It's like this is a very
right. Like if
weird-
you have a Range Rover, there's probably some other bills you're
Kim
not paying.
Kardashian doesn't go to Costco.
Yeah. Right.
So like if you get this,
Right.
why do you want the same purse as she does? It's like either make your life about money and then never be home with your kids and just slave away and become a millionaire and be like one of those rise and grind people.
Yeah.
Or just be happy with whatever.
Maybe they were like maybe your dad was a cop and his dad was a crooked cop.
Right. Yeah, they had a little more money.
No.
Yeah, a little more than.
No, I mean they live in semi-attached
Yeah.
townhouses
Yeah.
with a Maybach in the driveway. It's very
That's so Staten Island, though.
Dude, it's so weird.
That's such
Isn't
a
that
Staten
weird?
Island thing.
Isn't that
My wife's from Staten Island.
yeah.
She grew up, I think, close to probably where you grew up. I think we talked about that.
Yeah.
But she, like, her dad was out in Jersey. Her parents were divorced. Her dad was out in Jersey. She didn't spend all of her time there, but she went to school there and stuff. And the story she tells me, like, from growing up, or like once they enter those like teen years, because that's where like, I mean, it's funny that you say the communion thing, is I guess that's earlier, which makes sense.
Well,
everything's
it's getting earlier.
Yeah, it's getting
Yeah.
earlier, which makes sense because everything's getting earlier.
100%.
But like, to think you're like a 14-year-old girl whose like parents have like regular, either blue collar or just like middle class jobs, and they're just talking about like sweet 16s, the way like rich people talk about weddings.
Correct.
Right? And now, maybe even further back in those celebrations, but it's like, also when you're 16, none of it's yours. So you think about how you're wiring that kid's brain.
Correct.
When the money's not even theirs, to think like my sweet 16 is going to be more elaborate. Like, what are you bragging about? Like that your parents have more money than my parents, right? Like, but I guess that's a thing. But it's a wiring. It's a mentality that kid has no chance but to be materialistic, really.
Yeah.
Because they learned that at 14 because their parents are competing.
Yeah.
For their sweet 16.
Yeah, no,
You know?
isn't it? And that's kind of weird. That's why I've always like kind of teased Staten Island. I mean, I love it there, and I know many people who aren't like this as well.
Right, of course.
But
the four of them that aren't.
no, I mean, it's weird. What's funny is I feel like those people are getting less and less, and they are more on a stage now. People are like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Because it is this bizarre. I'm just so baffled by it, and like if your parents, people don't really grow out of it either, which is kind of a shame. It's like I know 60-year-olds who are still like.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's
they work for like whatever. They're retired sanitation, which is great. Nothing. I'm not putting anybody's job down.
Yeah.
But it's like, wouldn't you rather be like the richest guy at H&M than the poorest guy at.
Yeah, but well, that's what I'm saying. It's the wiring. So if that was your mentality at like 16, that's going to be your mentality probably going forward, unless you get super humbled.
And you
unless
can't-
something happens to you that you hit rock bottom.
And you can't. There's really no. It's like drugs. There's no. Nothing's ever going to be enough when you start thinking like that.
Yeah.
Then there's always a bigger something, a nicer whatever. You know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But I mean, my family wasn't necessarily. They were like that to a degree, like, but it wasn't necessarily flashy. They just didn't want to. My parents were hiding. They're hiding everything. Just like how on the brink of being super poor they were for so long, because we rented from an uncle in a pretty nice house. So we just seemed. Everyone probably thought my parents owned that house, and they never did. My parents have never owned anything.
Yeah.
You know, and so they were like hiding it, but it wasn't necessarily to be flashy. It was more just like, we just want to feel like everyone we know, we're in the same playing field. I didn't know this when I was younger. I don't even think I realized my parents didn't own the house for a while.
They didn't sit you down and explain you were renters when you were a little kid?
Did your parents argue about money in front of you?
They argued about everything in front of me.
Okay.
They argued about everything in front of me. But my mom was.
I knew all of our financial
'Cause
hardships.
they would just scream about
They
it?
would just tell me it was my fault.
Yeah, no, they
my
did.
dad, not my mom.
They did. Well, my mom is like the most non-confrontational person in the world. She is like, she will just hide. She won't even have the conversation alone with him. Like, she wouldn't want to have the conversation. She'll just pretend it's not happening.
Yeah,
my mom's in denial about fucking
My mom wouldn't
everything.
want to have the conversations either, but my dad would just yell at her.
Right,
about,
but that's and then my dad is that way too.
I wanted to order the Royal Rumble, and
Right.
she let me, and he flipped.
Yeah,
Now we can't eat for that month because I spent $30 on a pay-per-view.
yeah, but The Rock was pretty fucking cool back then. So
Dude, please, I still give him shit for that.
But then my mom, the one thing she would start the argument about, the only thing was that my dad stayed out late, either like gambling, drinking, hanging out. He owned like a barbershop in town, so everyone knew him. He was like this like little mayor in our neighborhood in Queens, and like that was the one argument she started, was like that he would just come in at like 3 a.m. That was the one thing she would start arguments about.
That's very good, fellas. Who stays out all night?
Yeah.
What's wrong with you?
Exactly that.
Henry, who are these people?
Yeah. What kind of people are they?
Yeah. Now my
But
mother.
it sounds like what your
Now
dad...
my mother's Joe Pesci's mom. It's like, look at the painting, and you're like, oh,
One
dear.
dog going this way, one dog going this way.
My mom has a paint. She didn't paint it, but she has a painting of a giant flower that looks like a pussy. Like, it just looks like a
pussy
giant.
willow.
It's a pussy willow. But she has no idea, and I'm like, even to the point where like the little thing. I now think it was supposed to be that. Like, it was never
it like
not.
Georgia O'Keeffe? It probably was supposed to be that.
I don't know who it was. But I don't think she has.
All her paintings were like vagina flowers.
Yeah, it was like a vagina flower, and like I'm like, oh, that's clearly like older. I'm like, that's clearly a labia. We're looking at right there. And she's like, no. And my wife and I are like, that's a vagina. Again, my mom doesn't want to talk about it. I don't even want to talk about the vagina painting. Nothing's. Everything to my mom should just be coffee and cake. That's all. I've got the Entenmann's cake out, or I made some horrible dry Italian thing with powdered sugar until everything's so dry in Italian.
How old are your parents?
my mom's in her 70s.
All right.
Everything.
Let me ask you this. So, like, Italian food is so good, right? How did you guys drop the ball on cookies and shit? Like, why are the
Everything's so
desserts
dry.
so dry?
Everything is dry. It's true. It's true. Besides the cannoli, because that's filled with cream. Everything else is. A lot of things are dry.
Everything's either like too dry or way too rich.
Yeah. Well, way too rich is probably, that's actually on brand for the rest of the food. There's a lot of Italians like dry things. Like they if you think,
There's a lot of butter cookies though. Like most of those cookies with the sprinkles are all those are like butter based.
Right.
I never really found them to be dry. I mean, like a rainbow cookie. I mean, that's like a little.
No, that's not
kind
dry.
of like a little cake though.
A little cakey.
If we're being honest.
But a lot of those cookies, like those, like when you like someone brings over like an Italian tray, of cookies, they're pretty dry. And also could be like maybe they're not a great version of those cookies.
This is where I'm a little.
You're like, this is what I will find.
I'm a little bit of a snob. I've never really had. You're talking like the ones like in the tin.
No, I mean like you go like
You gotta go to a bakery.
Even the ones in the maybe out of the bakery.
You gotta go to the
the ones in
bakery.
the tin are all dry. Like the
Here's
ones
what
that look
I've-
like pretzels.
I hate to be a purist. I've never tasted
Yeah.
those. I only go to the bakery.
Like I only go to Royal Crown or whatever.
Yeah,
one
Alfonso's.
of those.
Well, as a Jew growing up, like you'd go to your friends' houses and they'd have those, and you would think those were Italian cookies.
Yeah,
Right.
you were. Someone showed you the wrong way. They didn't. Give
Well, I'll
you the
say
good
like
stuff.
Italian cookies compared to like a very American chocolate fudge cake.
Listen, and
Italian
I'm not-
cookies are dry compared to that.
I'm not
You know,
disrespecting because Jews have terrible food and terrible dessert. Like we didn't get any of it right. Like we nailed
little
pastrami.
babka.
Nah.
Yeah, it's not that great.
Yeah.
It's bread. It's sweet bread. Pastrami.
Pastrami we nailed.
You ever
Pastrami.
go to Harold's? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Where is that? Is that the one in?
There's one in Raritan. There's one left in Raritan, like in
okay.
Edison.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of a place in Jersey
You
City.
spend
like
like $40 for a pastrami sandwich, and you get this much pastrami and a loaf
Did
of
there
bread.
used to be one in
and it
Newark?
can feed a family. Yes,
Right,
by
'cause
Giant
I-
Stadium.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I've had it. Yeah.
Yeah. My buddy Joe likes to go every year for his birthday. And
I went to Katz's Deli. I sent you a picture of it. I went to Katz's Deli last week. And I just, I mean,
I'm gonna go to a
it's-
deli and get a sandwich. I'm not gonna go to.
yeah.
You know.
It was just.
I'm gonna go to people who do it right.
Yeah. Oh, please. My whole fucking life. I can't even be somewhere for work. I'm like ignoring the work and I'm like, where am I eating?
yeah.
You know? But that's, that's a big part of like culture, Italian culture for sure. And it's like my parents cared more about that shit. Food was great.
Yeah.
And you sit down and it's like, your friends came over and got yelled at if they didn't eat enough. Like my friends would get yelled at by my parents. And like that was all normal to me. Like it just seemed normal to me. And then I'm like, wait, my dad, I guess the food is just a microcosm of everything he yelled about.
Oh
He just yelled about everything. And now I'm a dad and my daughter's 4. And I'm like, even in the most frustrated moments, I'm like, ooh, I've never reached, which I'm happy about.
Yeah.
I've never reached his level of rage in a parenting moment. I mean, I have rage, but I mean, like in a parenting moment, in front of toward my daughter, I can't imagine. She's 4. She's this fucking high. Why would I be that mad at her? Like, get frustrated, sure. Like, do the fucking thing. You get frustrated, you get like all flustered, but screaming, like cursing at her, like I couldn't imagine just focusing my rage at this child.
Yeah, man. I think about that all the time now that I have a son, and people always say like, I remember a buddy of mine when he had a kid. This is like a while ago. He's a little older than me, but he was like, I really started to respect my dad more, and then people would say that to me, like, you really start to respect your parents when you have children. And for me, it was kind of the opposite. I was like, how did my dad, like the way I feel about my son, I can't believe how in love I am with him. Like,
Yeah.
and I told you, like, I had some trouble when connecting with him when he was first born. I had like,
Right.
It was scary for me. And like, when I actually did start,
That's a thing. That's a dad thing. Like that happens to a lot of dads.
yeah, no one talks about it. But like for me, when I actually started to connect with him, my wife and I would just talk about how all we have to change about ourselves to make sure we don't, we don't argue about money in front of him. Let's not make him feel like I don't want my son to know anything about money. If we're rich, poor, I don't want him to ever worry about that. And like all these things I'm trying to like make better about myself, which I'm not perfect. Obviously, I'm trying though. And he's so young. Like I said before, like I'm not passing judgment. Not passing on judgment on parents, but just the fact that like I'm trying to be aware of it and trying to not do this stuff. Then I think back to my dad. I'm like, he didn't try anything. He was just like, I'll just be who I am.
You always hear that, like, people are like, oh, my parents did the best they could. And it's like, well, but did they really do the best they could?
This is the best he could do, really?
Yeah, they're right.
Like, I was thinking about you yesterday because Brian,
You almost threw up.
Brian
You ate too
Wilson,
much. You almost threw up.
Brian Wilson from the Beach Boys died.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about, like,
You wanted me to die? Is that
no,
what you're saying?
his dad beat him into greatness.
And you're like, my dad should have hit
You're
me
like,
harder.
you're like,
I'm here.
your dad beat you into this. Like, your dad could have done way better.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing is like he went in the middle.
He did not do the best
He hit
could.
me hard enough to hurt me, but he didn't hit me.
Brian
hard.
Wilson's dad beat him like Michael Jackson's
He didn't hit you hard
dad.
enough to be a rock star. Yeah.
Right.
He just hit you like because you.
Michael Jackson Michael Jackson probably learned to moonwalk away from punches.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Do it better.
Exactly. So that's the moral of what we're saying is like don't hit your kids at all. But if you're going
If
to,
you're gonna be a monkey,
lay them the fuck out because you're gonna
Give them something to cry about. You know.
if you're gonna be a monkey, be a gorilla.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. People.
Yeah, I wish my dad was the gorilla where 100 men would have gathered up to try to beat the shit out of him.
That was a great debate because then the real people. It broke my heart when all the scientists were like, "Yeah, they'd beat a gorilla," and I was like, "Damn it."
Yeah, I saw it.
I know, I didn't want that to be true.
I don't want that to be true either.
I don't want that to be true.
Then
I
I
want
was
Guys be
like-
like, "Bro, I told you. See, that's what I told you."
Yeah, except 75 of them would be paralyzed. or
Yeah. Oh
dead.
my God.
Oh, many
It'd be
would be
massive
dead.
casualties,
But I guess
yeah.
the sheer numbers would just exhaust the gorilla.
What
Yeah,
about like
exactly.
100 gorillas versus Jake Paul? I would pay for that. That would be
Yeah,
good
just
pay.
all
Except they'd be old gorillas. They'd be like the ones from the Tarzan
Yeah, you get the ones
movies.
on their way. The
ones still smoking cigarettes, like the one from the Clint Eastwood movies.
Yeah.
Got emphysema.
Yeah,
how long do they
ass
live?
out like Mike Tyson. Ass
Do
was out.
they live long, gorillas? Do we know? Is it like turtles?
Yeah, I think they. I
Yeah.
think they
They
live
have like,
like.
human lifespan almost.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh,
Like,
wow,
isn't it like
cool.
comparative to like
Yeah.
you look at 80-year-old.
I'm so confidently saying yes, and I have no idea.
Yeah. Isn't
No,
that fun?
that's enough for me.
Yeah, sure.
My phone's right there, but that's
The best
we
too
don't
was
do
like
that.
20 years ago. That was it. I would
Yeah.
tell people a week from now, like, yeah, they live pretty long.
Yeah,
and
this guy on a
You heard
podcast
it
said
once,
so.
Yeah.
right? You heard it once, and you're like, "That's fact."
Yeah, some guy said it. I don't know. I believed him. He said it convincingly. He had a Knicks shirt on. I don't know.
I like the Knicks. Here's how I know how fucking different, and also, look, our generation could also be really annoying too. In the terms
We go
of,
way too far.
like, okay, the fact that like my wife is one of them. She will, she used, and look, these things are. It's not that I'm saying they're not real, but like it's just obnoxious to say. Like the fact that we talk about generational trauma, like that's a term that's coined, and we talk about it, right?
Yeah.
That is. My dad would not have looked at anything, no matter how much he probably hated it when he was a kid, when he was getting hit. He would not look at anything, or at least say it out loud. Maybe he would think.
What do you mean?
He would not look at anything that his parents did to him, or his parents did to them, or his parents did to them as, oh my God, you guys are passing down trauma. Like, that's not how he would look at that. He's like, that was a man. He was being a dad. You know what? My grandfather in Sicily beat up a priest because the priest hit my dad in school. So, but then he
Priest
also
could do a lot worse.
But then he also
I know. I would
Right.
send him flowers like, thank you for only punching my son.
like you
Not
beat the
handing
shit out
down
of my
the-
son, but you didn't take his
or he
pants
was
off.
mad
and
he
you
didn't.
Yeah.
take it
yeah, he's
further.
like, yeah. My dad needed that.
Could have taught him a real.
He could have taught him a real. Same thing was with the beating. It's like if you're gonna do it right.
Yeah, exactly.
But he like. But then also hit my dad. But like these are just violent people. These are just like you can't hit my son, priest. I'll beat the shit out of you, man of God.
Yeah, I think there's definitely something to be said about the quote unquote safe space and the participation trophy, all that shit. I understand completely, but I don't know. Like, are you like when people say like there's never a place for violence? I don't totally agree with that. Like, I think I think 95% of the time, no. But like, I do think it is important for young boys to know how to fight. I feel like that's a valuable
I agree.
skill.
I agree. Yeah. Defending yourself in a situation or just
But there are
or
people
just
our
shutting
age
someone
who
up.
will be like, never, ever, ever. And
no,
I'm
no.
like, I don't know, because especially like it teaches you discipline. It humbles you.
Yeah,
You could tell that's like a saying right around guys. Like you could tell a guy who's never been punched in the face, right? Like
100%.
You could just tell that they think they're like the like
mouth off a
little
lot.
Karens of the world.
Yeah.
And I think that's definitely important. So like I'm not totally. I don't know.
No. Look, my grandfather beating the shit out of the priest because the
No,
priest
you're right.
hit my dad. He should have beat that priest. Dude, I'd be in jail. I don't know that I would stop hitting a person if they hurt my daughter.
I wasn't even comparing it to that. I was just saying in terms of like how we can like the generational trauma, and there are like that's also that didn't come from us. Like
Right.
you and I specifically didn't invent that. It's just like every generation we're presented with ideas and we're taught about stuff. We're
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, that is. No one asked your dad how he was feeling.
Yeah.
No one asked him how did you feel about that. So
Yeah.
he didn't even know that was a viable.
Well, when can you, like, your dad's finished beating you and you're like, Dad, you okay?
Yeah.
seems
Yeah.
like
No, it couldn't have been me.
Do you need a hug? You had a tough day.
It couldn't have
Right?
been me
No, you're
because you know. I
And
didn't
even
have-
if someone had asked them, they would have been like, "What are you, fucking gay?"
Yeah, I know.
That's
asking about my
exactly right.
feelings?
That's what I'm
calling me
thinking.
gay?
That's kind of my point. Is like that. My dad, if you had presented him with like, maybe the reason why you like to fight people so much is because you just grew up around violence.
They also don't like that. Because
Yeah, you're digging.
it almost seems like a justification for a wrongdoing, which drives older people fucking crazy. Because then it's like you're excusing them of a bad behavior, which I've noticed too. It's like if you give an excuse, because then people take liberties with that, where it's like, okay, then where do you draw the line, right? Like they talk about this a lot with addicts who steal from people, and they're like, well, they have a disease and yada yada yada, and then it's like it's not a disease. So it gets complicated. So like there is this thing where like, no, he just did it. It's like, well,
Yeah,
I'm not excusing anybody who's older, but like there's obviously like it's the same reason why pedophiles were often abused themselves. Like it's a cycle. So like you have to at a certain point kind of feel bad for your dad, even if he did something bad.
Oh,
to you,
I do.
'cause it's like-
I do. That's the thing. Is like
I feel bad for my dad all the
Yeah.
time. I'm like, you didn't have anybody saying this to you. Like,
Yeah, no, I do feel bad. Even but again, it goes to the same thing about like someone who's an addict who, let's say, steals from you, right? Like, yes, I it's a disease. Yes, you're struggling. This is the cause and effect of your addiction. But I'm fucking pissed you stole from me. Right?
yeah.
Like I'm not gonna excuse you stealing from
It
me.
doesn't mean I don't want my Nintendo.
Right. Yeah. Like I'm still gonna fuck you up now. Like you still stole something from me. Right.
Yeah,
so
no,
like
for sure. Accountability can't be lost.
Right. But that is a gray area thing. That is like I'm pissed at you because you did this to me, but I know that you did this because you have trauma, right?
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
But so it's a gray area thing. Like me and my dad don't talk, and it's because of his behavior. But at the same time, yeah, that's all passed down. But also, there's a little bit of an element of like, but I'm the kid. If I can't imagine that I would put myself in a world where I didn't speak to my daughter, that's on me then as the dad,
For sure.
Even as an adult. And granted, I'm not a kid of an adult yet. Like I don't know how I'll be because I think that changes, right? Like being
Definitely.
a kid. To your daughter is
9. She's
right?
9.
So like you're not there yet. You haven't experienced the teen years yet. But then there's got to be a shift.
Well,
Like
I got stepdaughters. So
Oh, right. That's true.
My niece is 9. It's wild.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
they're little people.
Yeah,
She's not
and you've
even a
got
little-
older stepdaughters.
Yep.
But then there's then they become adults, and now you have to get along with them on an adult level.
and they might know more than you.
Yeah.
That's got to be challenging.
They probably will.
Of course.
Yeah.
And I think I would
'Cause you'll
be,
stop learning and they're
I think
still-
I'd be humble enough to be like, wow, my son's really smart. He taught me something. My father, I've been complaining to my parents about microplastics for the past 10 years. My dad saw it on the news and goes, you know, these microplastics are bad.
He doesn't want to hear from you.
Exactly.
That's hilarious.
That's how I'm just like, okay, so I don't think that's going to be me. Obviously, yeah, maybe I will when he's 20, but I don't think that's.
I think about that a lot. Like, at what point? Because it happens. At what point do we get to a point where we're like, we're like, we'll never be that guy, and then we might become that guy? Like, will we get to a point where we're so ignorant about things because we're just told that we don't want to learn anymore? Like,
I'll
I
tell
think
you
about
what,
that a lot. I'm like, cause trying to be self-aware of it, but I'm still far from that age, of course. But like,
Yeah.
I've been wondering at what point I was going to start tapping out on my daughter's homework. And like last night, 3rd grade math, I was like,
too complex for you?
I think you might be on your own with some of these. And then I asked her.
I never had help from my dad. Are
Yeah.
you kidding me?
Yeah.
Yeah. My parents couldn't help me.
That's a mom job.
My parents couldn't help me. They were both Sicilian immigrants. They didn't. My mom went to high school, but my dad stopped going to school when he came to America. Like he was a bit. I think he went to like 8th grade.
Yeah.
and that's where he stopped. So my dad like didn't really know how to read in English. You know,
I've been trying.
and it got him into trouble a lot of times, and he wouldn't admit it.
I always tried to make a joke out of out of like my teachers would know I forged the signature if it was my dad's, because your mom is usually I know gender roles, et cetera, but like when I was growing up, it's like my dad had no idea what was going on in my school life. I don't even think he knew if I took math. He just had no idea.
No idea. No, mine either.
He didn't know how old I was. Like there was just like nothing.
My dad would only know that something happened at school if I got in trouble at school. That's the only thing he would ever know about.
My dad would pretend to care. I knew
it.
he didn't really give a shit. He would just be like,
It is so funny you say that, because my stepfather watches a lot of Fox News, and then he was telling me recently, can you believe what the schools are teaching? They got drag queens coming in, and they're teaching all this woke history, and this is what your daughters. And I remember, like, you had no clue you never asked me a question about my school career one time.
Now he knows that for sure.
You had 5 kids in your house. I don't ever remember you being like, hey, how was school? What'd you learn? Now you're upset about what other kids?
By the way, he's still not thinking that. He just is listening to the news.
Yeah.
Or his friends talk about the like fucking, oh, there's litter boxes in all the classrooms. It's like, I had this argument with my barber because he said, right here.
Oh, yeah.
Right. I told this.
Everyone knows someone.
All right, right here. My friend's friend, his sister, it's like 3 people.
Yeah.
They got litter boxes in the classroom because people are identifying as cats. I'm like, show me. It's right here. He goes, the Lakeland School District, Lakeland in Westchester School District. What he actually, what I put together is that I think he pulled information from different sources, and there was that first fake story of someone in Lakeland, Ohio. In Lakeland, Ohio. Not Lakeland School District. That's what I think he put together.
It's like ChatGPT.
And made it, right. He took the words and made his own thing. And he's like, right here. And I'm like, and then I started Googling. I'm like, litter boxes in schools. And it's like, and then I found out that in some schools, they put litter boxes in there in case of a school shooting. So that they could pee into a litter box if they get locked down.
Oh,
so that not that they're out, but they have them in supplies. Like they actually have these like active shooter kits and processes now. Ugh. So it's like, so I think he put together, there's a litter box in the school. This is Lakeland, but it's the wrong Lakeland. And then he 100%, as the man has scissors to my head, is saying to me as fact that this happened. And I was like, I don't think you're right about that, but I'm also like not arguing that hard because I'm like, I also wanted like a decent haircut. Yeah. It took me a long time to find a good barber in Westchester. So I'm like, it's fine. I was like,
have you found one yet?
Him. He's a good barber. That's right. That's rude. Yeah. That's rude. I didn't know. I went over my bad haircut and then I did.
Yeah. That shit. I don't know. When you get too deep down that road, people start to think that like you're okay with them being actual litter boxes in classroom. People were he's a libtard and he loves for the teacher to be identify as a furry or whatever the fuck.
Well, so I love the storyline of like these drag queens are teaching their kids, like, first of all, they're not. Secondly, if you ever went to a drag show, they're fucking fun. They're not hurting your kid. Like if you went to a drag, I've been brought to quite a few, and I
went to one in
what's actually going on there that's not happening on a Broadway show that my kid can't see. You know what I mean? Like a person dressed in an elaborate costume.
I don't know.
They're not at a drag show. They're not talking about being trans or reading a story or they're acting out something or they're singing a song. It's not a political message. I don't know. That's not what they're doing there. Is like they have like the kid readings. Like they'll be like in your in the more liberal towns, will be like, oh, it's like drag queens are going to read stories to kids, which is just kind of funny. It's like first of all, like, why is that? Like, why would I have to bring my kids to any of these, like, for anyone? And then it's like, but drag queens they're reading a kid's story. It's really just a person in an elaborate costume reading it. They're not actually, but they're talking about they're indoctrinating your kid. Like they're pulling them in. So now my kid's going to be, this is my kid's future because you saw, a drag queen read a story. So like it's just like think about.
I don't know
lane.
enough to speak on
Yeah.
this. I don't know.
Think about
Drag queen came to school and read "By Curious George" to us, and now
yeah, right. But that doesn't.
Okay, would they blow a fit if it was a Jesus story? Would you think people would be just as?
oh yeah. Oh wait, like
if the drag queen
if a
just
drag
read
queen read a Jesus
No,
story.
it's just,
like
if
if
just
a
like an
Jesus guy
overtly
came in.
conservative guy.
Oh no,
came.
that would be fine.
You think so?
Well,
That'd
not
be-
for
What about in Portland?
not for the drag queen crowd, like the
Yeah.
people
Oh no,
that
no,
are
I mean,
for the drag queen
Yes,
crowd.
you're right.
So
I
it's
thought you
just-
meant that same crowd.
it's
Yeah.
just as hypocritical.
Yeah.
Right.
Everyone's a hypocrite.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, completely. No, you're right. Yeah, but I guess that's my point. That's the content. I'm talking about like Goodnight Moon is a kid's book. If a drag queen reads Goodnight Moon, or if you read Goodnight
Right,
Moon,
yeah,
that's what I'm talking about. I'm
A
not talking
priest
about
at
the
a public
content.
school? Would a priest at a public school be accepted?
Is he
what
fucking
are
the
they
kids? Because that's
No, they got teachers to do that now.
I'm only trying to think of like, because I think when you speak like that,
yeah.
it's just like, oh, how bad is the other side? And I think
Yeah.
they're both horrible.
They're both horrible.
they're both
Oh, they are both.
I think they're both horrible.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
people would complain if it wasn't a drag queen. They would complain if it was the left complaining if it was
Yeah.
toxic masculinity.
Yeah. Oh no.
Too
If
white.
if it was a cop.
A cop.
Yep.
Yeah, you
People would
can't
get
have cop
upset.
stories anymore.
Yeah.
So
My point is, if JD Vance read My Kid Goodnight Moon, it wouldn't bother me that much.
There you go.
But if a drag queen read My Kid Goodnight Moon, it wouldn't bother me that much.
There is a crowd on Twitter that thinks JD Vance is a drag.
Well, it's the eyeliner. It's the eyeliner. It's just
The
very
guy
pronounced. Either dyes his eyelashes or he's wearing
Yeah.
eyeliner. But you know what I'm saying? Like I'm just saying in that moment, the content is not spreading a message. So it's kind of a weird thing. But that's like a fundamental. You can't convince someone who's extreme one way or the other that either of those things are right or wrong. Like whatever they believe is what they believe. And to go back to our parenting thing, it goes to that too. Like I can't tell my parents. Well, my dad. I can't tell my dad he did anything wrong. He'd lose his fucking shit, and you cannot convince him he did anything wrong. Whereas my mom will just deny it.
Oh, that's what my dad does. My mom feels guilty, and I feel sad because I'm the youngest of 4 kids, so I constantly bust their balls about, I have a joke that's like, my brother got a baby book. I have years where no one took a picture of me. So like,
Yeah.
it sounds a lot sadder than it is. I think it's funny, but growing up, I was very sad for me. I did feel left out.
Yeah,
and my
yeah.
mom feels so bad now that I'm aware of it or whatever.
That's my brother too with my mom.
My
He's the favorite.
my dad will, whenever I'll tell him something from my childhood, he'll say, "You need therapy," and I'll go, "Exactly."
Yeah.
You think
Thanks,
that?
Pop.
He acts like I'm inherently crazy. Like, yeah, you did this.
This is your handiwork.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, that's funny. That's funny. He doesn't see his own fault in
Yes.
that. He's like, "You're fucking twisted." dude."
My dad built a kitchen that's crooked. He'd be like, "This fucking kitchen's crooked." It's like, you built this.
What happened to this fucking kitchen?
You didn't use
That's
a level.
funny.
Yeah.
I grew up the youngest 5 in
you
my
go.
house, but technically I'm the youngest of 8. So I got like a big blended family.
Mm-hmm.
And same, like the next oldest, my brother's the next oldest. He's 6 years older, so that's a big
Oh
gap.
wow! So you're really the baby.
Yeah. So all the only clothes I ever had belonged to other people. Like the
Dude.
toys all belonged to other people.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
there was, on the flip side, by the time it got to me, like when I was in high school, they were so fucking tired and exhausted. I was just go do whatever you want. You know,
So people
like,
say that like, oh,
Yeah.
it must have been great. I'm like, yeah, because they didn't give a fuck.
right? Yes,
They didn't care. It sounds great.
Right.
My mom got strangely, like, she had like a crisis when I got my license and I got a girlfriend at the same time.
Yeah.
She realized my last bait, I'm never going to be a mom again. So
Yeah.
all of a sudden, I'd be
Yeah,
out till
yeah.
4 a.m. in the 8th grade because she fell asleep. I wasn't allowed out, but yeah, mom, go to
no one
sleep.
knew.
But then when I got my license, all of a
That's
sudden,
the thing, they
she's
weren't paying
like,
attention.
you got to be home at 11:30. I'm like, who? What? I'm 17. I've
Yeah.
never had a curfew. What
Yeah.
the fuck is going on? But like,
It seemed more dangerous at 17 when you were driving and maybe drinking.
I think she just like realized like, oh my God, I don't have any more children. And it might have been sad for her to be
Yeah.
like, my last baby is gone. I always had Eric. Now he's even like out on his own.
Yeah.
But like, that is something that I'm so afraid of that with my son. Cause I had a lot of sad moments. Like my siblings were all very close in
How many
age.
siblings?
I have 3.
3.
So they're all 85, 83, 85, 86.
Okay.
Right? And then I trail behind in 90. So my mom just admitted this. She literally, I think a year ago, she just admitted that you weren't necessarily planned. And I'm like, yeah, no shit.
Obviously.
Like, but my whole life,
2-year gap, 5-year gap.
we were trying to have a
3
sister for Lisa. That was like the myth they had for my whole life. Well, no, we wanted you to be a sister. I knew something was up, right? So there was a lot of these moments, like we would go places as kids, and my parents, I guess I get mad at them, not mad at them, but like, you should have known better. We went, remember when the pullover starter jackets were huge, like the Charlotte Hornets?
Yep.
We went to a place in Jersey somewhere with like a starter factory where they had like discounted ones. They all got jackets. I wanted a Toronto Raptors one. They didn't have one in my size. So they all got dope starter jackets and I got nothing. And I was like, how did you not think this was going to affect me?
Yeah.
Like, how did you not see this?
Yeah.
They all have videos.
That's rule of thumb that like all kids have to get something.
My dad had a video camera where they all have Christmas morning, Easter, whatever. His video camera broke. I have none. Yeah. There's no videos of me. There's maybe one of me. And they never thought, this is kind of fucked up. Never even occurred to them that this might affect me.
Well, they made a comic. That's what happened.
Exactly.
That's what happened. The trauma.
They made a comic.
I remember my parents.
Someone pay attention to me.
My parents in 1986 went to a work convention in Boston. It was when the Mets were playing the Red Sox in the World Series. And they maybe were staying at the same hotel as the Mets or something, and they met a bunch of the 86 Mets. Wow. They got autographs. Shit. They got a bunch of autographs to divvy up between the kids. But since I was the youngest, I got photocopies.
How do they not
I'm like,
see this shit?
I'll treasure this the rest of this fucking Xerox.
I think so. Do you think?
I think I crumpled them up.
So are our memories better than theirs, or did they just like? So my point is,
they
like,
think you didn't care enough because you were so little. You know, like,
how
was
did
that
they?
The mentality?
How did they not remember being 5 when I was 5?
They do.
So
Dude,
now
I
when my
talk about that
son-
all the time with my wife. I'm like, it's so crazy. I think parents who have a fucking 20-year-old forget what it's like to have a 5-year-old kid. Like, you don't even have to be that far removed to where you remember your own childhood. There's parents who I talk to about my kid who have like teenagers.
Yeah.
Who like they act like they don't even remember what it was like 10 years ago to have like a little kid. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So no, they don't. I don't think they think that deep at all. I don't think they think, how would I have felt at Eric's age?
Yeah, that's all I think about.
What they were thinking, so that's 4 kids, right? That's a lot of kids.
Yeah.
They're stressed. They're busy. They're not thinking. They just weren't thinking, I think.
No,
they just
not.
weren't thinking more than it being intentional. And maybe you were so young that maybe the thought came up like, we're not going to, he's going to grow out of it because you have that too. He's going to grow out of it so soon. It's like, they're expensive. I'm not going to buy it for him. They'll be able to wear it for another 10 years.
Definitely.
He's not going to care. You're not going to care that you had a fucking photocopy because at 86 you were a little kid.
Yeah.
You're not going to care.
He's not going to know the difference.
Yeah. Little did they fucking know. Look at that.
40 years ago. 40 years from now.
All of our parents in separate places had no idea that the 3 of us would get together and still fucking hold on to these things, right?
The funny thing is that if we said this out loud, we're the crazy ones for holding on to that.
To them.
Yeah. Which is like, that's also just the true definition of gaslighting, where it's like, you know, my mom will feel bad. My dad will just call me crazy because I shouldn't be remembering this.
My mom and stepfather just like, that never happened. And we're like, well, how did
That's my mom. My
there's
mom
5 kids that remember it, and they're just like, didn't happen.
See, that's sad because they feel sad about it. That's them.
No, I don't know if they've just, forgot. Or...
I think they feel sad. Who wants to be told that? Like, my biggest nightmare is my son being like, remember that time we did that? It really hurt me.
No,
like,
I know. But you know what, though? There is... I don't know. Either one of you could be right about this, but I was just telling you guys before we started. My mom recently, I was talking about how, like, we were talking about hitting, like, parents who hit, and I was talking about my dad, and we were at a party. We were at a birthday, like, my sister-in-law's house. And we're talking, like, I'm talking to someone else. My mom overhears it, and then, like, we get along to, like, the dining room table where I'm, like, some food. And my mom, like, kind of quietly is like, so sincere. Your dad didn't really, like, hit you, right?
Oh my God.
And I was like, I thought I was like, you're fucking with me. My mom's not that funny, so I knew she wasn't. Like, she would never have, like, because that's almost funny. Like, it would have been funny to be like, hey, pussy, like, you never. No, she was like fucking sincere. This is like a few months ago. And I was like, yeah, okay. And she was like, no, I mean, like, I remember he yelled a lot. And I was like, wait, you're serious? You don't remember? I'm like, and then I told her, I'm like, but my brother lives in Florida now. He wasn't there. So I was like, you were like one of me and my brother's most distinct memories of like how we defended each other was when he got chased around the dining room table in Ridgewood, Queens, and I was crying because when my dad finally caught him, he like it was like an hour long of my brother doing that thing where he's on one side of the table and then running to the other. My dad couldn't catch him. My brother was like just nimble enough and quick enough. My dad couldn't catch him. My dad is getting older. My brother's like probably 8 or 9, a little quick motherfucker at this point. And finally my dad caught him, and the beating that my brother caught for, not for the initial thing, for running away for so long. The beating my brother got, and I'm like, let him go. Like, I'm crying.
That's
my eyes out in the
traumatizing.
background. And I'm
You're
telling
next,
her.
be quiet.
And I'm like, so like you just said, you're like, no, we all remember. I'm like, I just talked to him about this. I'm like, this is not, I'm not like making things up. And also when your kids grow up and go, I got beat, they're not making it up. they're not like, if you had a good childhood, if you had like, you had parents who didn't hit you, right? Like your parents, you seem like you have a very well adjusted.
Like early on, I remember
they should have
a couple times, but I feel like by the time it got to me,
not like
my dad
Right.
was one of the sweetest dudes.
Right.
My
When
dad.
you talk about your dad, it seems like you would have never.
My dad. I can hardly ever remember him raising his voice.
Right,
and he would try that shit on me like, I'm not mad, I'm just disappointed. And I'd be like, but you're not mad?
Yeah.
I can go now? Like, that shit
Wait
didn't
till you
work
see
on
my
me.
career in the future. I'm going to disappoint you for a long time.
A lot worse than this.
Yeah, but my mom, sincerely, at this point in her life, really does not remember my dad hitting us. And I'm just like, how did you actually... And I know she's being sincere. Because the way she came to me, it wasn't like I put her on the spot and she said that out loud to like protect herself. You know what I mean?
My mom does stuff like that though, dude. I think it's in denial of like what they don't want. She wants to tell you. She wants you to tell her it didn't happen. So she's like, all right, cool. I can sleep now.
I know my mom hated it.
Bothering
When it
her.
happened, I know my mom... Like, my mom was like... Like, if it was that, my mom would get very upset when we got hit.
Yeah,
like, if she never wanted us to get it. My mom wasn't like, I'm going to tell your father when he
That'd
gets
be
home.
weird if she did want you to get it.
Yeah, beat that little fucker. I mean, that happens. No, but I mean, like, I remember, like, her even protecting us. Like, if we did something bad in the house, she wouldn't tell my dad. Like, she just would. She's like, oh, it's going to be bad. He can't. But she would say that to us. She's like, he can't. Like, she'd help us cover it up. She'd be like, listen, please don't do that again because I can't tell him. Because if I tell him, he, like, and I'm like, so... You forget those conversations? You forget the fucking plans that we had after me and my brother broke something in the house and you trying to tell us not to do it again just so that we don't get beat? Like, you forgot all of that? I'm like, that's such a distinct part of my childhood.
I don't think
that's
she
like a third of my
forgot.
childhood.
I think she just wants it to be like, you know, like in the movies when it's like, so this conversation never took place, right? What conversation?
Yeah, slide something on the
Yeah,
table.
I feel like she wanted you to be like,
Yeah, but isn't that worse?
didn't
Because that's like
happen, right?
manipulative.
I mean,
Is that worse?
It's
That
not
might
trying
be
to be
worse.
manipulative. I
That
noticed
might be worse
though.
than her blocking out trauma.
I noticed that though. They want you to like. My mom would be like, "Oh, we never really did that, right?" I'm like, the fact that you're saying you didn't shows just how bad it really was. That
Yeah.
you're even afraid to admit that you guys.
I guess
did that.
both of those possibilities, though, are very. Those are like you know, I'm sure psychologists can tell us those are like human response things. Whether she remembers and
Correct,
just
you're
wants
right.
you to not say it out loud,
Yeah.
so that we just don't talk about this anymore, which I guess is possible, or she actually
legit
blocked out the
blocks it
trauma. Like, what she actually almost doesn't remember it. It's like when you hear about a person who got like molested and then they're like they remember it 20 years later
Oh, yeah,
because they're in
because-
therapy. Like, it could be either one of those things. Either way, I'm like, I remember, motherfucker. Like, I remember so vividly, and it's just frustrating to hear. You know,
Of
this
course.
didn't happen, regardless of what her. Again, it's like what we were talking about before. Like, if there's an addict or something, it's like regardless of the cause and effect here. I just need you to admit you're being shitty.
Yeah, no, exactly.
You know what I mean?
Just admitting it would be nice. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, just an admission.
Eric, thanks so much for coming on, man. Do you
course,
have anything
guys.
to plug? Which probably air. This will air like early July, I think.
Okay. Coming to Atlantic City. I'll be at Harrah's in July 20.
You just sound like you have a gambling addiction right now. You don't even sound like you have a show
Come
going
meet
on.
me at the craps table.
I'm only on my phone because I'm looking at my dates. Oh, Montclair, New Jersey, too.
When's that?
That's September 27th.
Oh, where is that? At the...
The Welling?
That's a good theater.
Yeah.
Saw the Wiggles there. Worst tailgating experience, but it is a cool theater.
I'll be in Phoenix.
Not if you're one of those pedophiles that we were talking
Phoenix,
about.
Chicago. I'm adding new dates all the time, but yeah, in this area, that's where I'm going to be at. I'm just looking at my phone because I don't remember. Tarrytown, New York, in October.
All right, the Bit Too Much Podcast and all the socials. Like, subscribe, blah, blah, blah. Bye.
Tune in next week for part 2 of Overthinking with our guest, Eric D'Alessandro.